This was the most unique woman I had ever seen when it came to taste. Just because she was bumped by a man during a volleyball match, she found herself deeply attracted to this plain-looking guy in front of her. But clearly, what drew Candy in wasn't his appearance. It was a certain aura about him, a scent that made her heart race and blood boil, leaving her completely captivated. Candy told her best friend Sherry about this. Sherry said she was being too outrageous. At this age, she was actually falling for a plain-looking man again.
Allan, go on. I mean, he'd be ball nut proof anyway. Just take a look at him.
But even with Sherry's repeated advice, Candy couldn't calm the waves in her heart. In the days that followed, she just couldn't stop thinking about him. Not wanting to live with regret, one night she stopped Allan's car and mustered up the courage to confess her feelings.
I'm very attracted to you. I'm just tired of thinking about it, so I wanted to tell you that.
Allan froze after hearing her words. For a moment, he didn't even know what to say. Seeing his lack of response, Candy awkwardly got out of the car. Although she didn't get the result she hoped for, speaking out the feelings that had been bottled up gave her a sense of relief. Given Allan's looks and age, receiving such a sincere confession from a high-quality woman like Candy naturally stirred something deep inside him. Candy's image kept appearing in his mind. He wanted to call her but couldn't summon the courage. Soon enough, the volleyball match brought them back together. Every time they saw each other, their eyes would unconsciously meet, as if something unspoken passed between them. And when the game finally ended, Allan couldn't hold it in any longer and asked,
Candy? What exactly was it that you had in mind?
Get in.
To avoid drawing attention, they went into the car to talk, and Candy spoke with complete bluntness.
Would you be interested in having an affair?
Once again, Allan was caught off guard. He told her he deeply loved his wife and didn't want to ruin the hard-earned relationship they had. Candy was stunned. Wasn't Allan being a little two-faced? What did he really mean by that? Was he hoping she'd be even more proactive? But Candy knew his game, playing hard to get, and she wasn't about to fall for it by making another move. As time went on, they only met once more, on Halloween. But Candy didn't bring up that matter, which left Allan feeling a bit disappointed, even restless deep inside. Finally, one morning, Candy received a call from Allan. He took the initiative to ask Candy out for lunch the next day, to talk about that thing they had discussed before. Candy didn't turn him down. The next day, they met as planned. Since they were both married, they agreed not to talk about love, which happened to be exactly what they were both thinking. Candy thought they would settle everything today, but to her surprise, Allan said,
I think we should think about it some more. Think about the hazards and decide whether or not we're willing.
Candy was stunned. She thought to herself, this man really does have some strong self-control to be able to taste the forbidden fruit without getting caught. They both cooled down for a long time. It wasn't until Candy brought it up again that they finally reached an agreement. They made 4 rules. First, if either of them wanted to end it at any point, for any reason, it would end. Second, if either of them developed real feelings, it would also have to end. Third, to avoid being discovered, all their meetings would take place outside the city. Fourth, all expenses from their meetups, food, gas, hotels, would be split evenly. Once everything was settled, they agreed on a time for their next date. After the meeting with Allan, Candy looked at her husband, who only smiled blankly at the TV every day, and felt a twinge of guilt. She slowly leaned closer to him, but his reaction, so why Candy would rather seek excitement with a plain-looking man? At this moment, the answer seemed clear. But then again, marriage is really just a test of loyalty. If you can't stick to it, maybe you shouldn't have entered the test in the first place. Soon, December 12th arrived. Candy dressed herself up carefully. She first drove her daughter to school and just happened to see Allan's wife. Her heart stirred slightly, but it didn't shake her plans. Candy found a lovely hotel outside the city. After booking a room, she called Allan.
I'm at the Continental Inn on the Central Expressway toward Dallas, room 214.
I will be there in a few minutes.
After a long wait, Allan finally arrived.
You're just going to stand there?
The moment he walked toward her, Candy's heart was pounding. What happened next? I'll leave that to your imagination. Behind their partners' backs, they met secretly in different hotels every week. At this age, it felt like they had rediscovered the thrill of falling in love. And the overworked Allan was always exhausted whenever he got home. constantly feeling inadequate when faced with his wife's needs. Betty was heartbroken. This was the only time in 6 months that she had made the first move, and she didn't expect to be rejected so coldly. This made her start to suspect, could her husband be seeing another woman? Allan was terrified. The very next day, he rushed to meet Candy, admitting that he had been spending most of his energy on her, neglecting the wife who had given birth to his children.
This affair is affecting my marriage now.
You can't perform with Betty one time. You want to end it.
We've become too close. I'm afraid that might not love her anymore. Let's just slow it down some.
From that point on, they didn't contact each other for several days. To ease the tension with his wife, Allan attended a marriage counseling retreat with her, and the results were surprisingly good. It reignited the passion in their relationship that had hit a standstill.
I'd like to fornicate.
To save everyone some data, we'll skip ahead through the next part. As time went on, Allan and his wife grew closer and closer. He finally made the decision to completely end things with Candy.
So you don't want to see me anymore? I'm not going to call. I'm not going to try to see you. I won't bother you anymore.
Okay.
And Candy wasn't the type to cling on. After all, they had agreed from the beginning that they wouldn't let their desires hurt their families. So they parted peacefully. No drama, no conflict. They left each other's lives for good. But one day, Candy simply couldn't bear the loneliness anymore. She called Allan, not to ask for anything, just to hear his voice. Unexpectedly, she learned that Betty had developed a tumor in her chest. As a friend, Candy felt obligated to visit, so she went over right away. Fortunately, the tumor turned out to be benign, and Betty's health was not in danger. Just then, Allan got home from work. Betty asked him to drive Candy back. They didn't say anything inappropriate, but Betty noticed the way they looked at each other. And a woman's sixth sense told her there was more to their story than met the eye. Not long after, Candy also wanted to improve her own marriage. So she and her husband, Pat, joined a marriage counseling retreat. After some time, her relationship with her husband gradually improved, to the point where she no longer even thought about Allan. But that all changed one day. While cleaning the house, Pat stumbled upon a love letter. It wasn't written by him. Looking at the contents of the letter, Pat accidentally discovered the secret of his wife's betrayal. But instead of confronting Candy, he went to see her best friend, Sherry.
I need to know something. I know she would tell you. Is it over?
It is, and it won't happen again.
I want to talk to Candy about this in my own way. I don't want you to tell her that I talked to you. Promise me I can talk to her first.
I promise.
Later, Pat returned home and waited quietly. Sure enough, Candy soon came back. But then, a phone call came in.
Pat found Alan's letter.
He found one of Alan's love letters. He came by the salon this morning to make sure that the affair's really over.
Okay. Bye.
After hanging up, Candy forced herself to stay calm, pretending nothing had happened. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Pat suddenly pulled a bouquet of roses from under the bed. Candy was shocked.
I know I failed you. I tried to write down how I feel in a letter.
Instead of getting angry, Pat blamed himself for neglecting her. His emotional control was terrifyingly strong. After reading the letter from her husband, Candy broke down in tears. She knew deep down she had hurt the man who loved her. They forgave each other, reconciled, and returned to their everyday life, raising children and living as husband and wife. But no secret stays buried forever. One day, Candy went to her friend's house to pick something up. She had no idea she was about to walk into a nightmare. At first, everything seemed normal. They chatted warmly, until suddenly, Betty said something shocking.
You having an affair with Alan?
No,
But you did, didn't you?
but it was a long time ago.
She couldn't believe it. Her best friend had betrayed her. Just as Candy was waiting, she saw Betty charging out with an axe in her hand. Candy gently placed a hand on her shoulder, trying to calm her.
Get out, Betty!
What are you doing?
But in that moment, she realized Betty wanted to kill her, so she fought back. She wrestled the axe away and struck Betty in the head. Candy thought Betty was dead. But just as she turned to leave, Betty blocked her path. To protect herself, Candy grabbed the axe again and began striking. She kept swinging again and again. She hit Betty 41 times. Blood covered the room, severed limbs, shattered bone. It was a horrific scene. Candy didn't leave right away. She went to the bathroom and cleaned off all the blood. She never imagined that one moment of indulgence would lead to such irreversible disaster. But it was far too late for regret. She calmly drove home, changed into clean clothes, and even took her child to a movie. Candy thought that by doing this, no one would ever find out it was her. But Allan, who was away on a trip, had called home dozens of times with no answer. Sensing something was wrong, he asked a neighbor to check. When they arrived at Allan's house, they were met with a horrifying scene. Police rushed to the scene and immediately launched a serious investigation. At first, Candy wasn't even considered a suspect until Allan confessed to the police that he had once had an affair with her. Based on fingerprints and footprints at the scene, police finally identified Candy as the suspect. To clear her name, Candy hired a well-known lawyer. The lawyer used arguments of self-defense and mental illness, claiming that Candy's 40 axe strikes on Betty weren't premeditated. Candy, he claimed, was suffering from dissociative trauma triggered by a painful childhood, which led to her uncontrollable reaction. Allan's testimony also played a crucial role.
Can you think of any reason why Candy would want to harm your wife?
No.
In the end, Candy was acquitted. Public opinion exploded. Most people believed that such a brutal act should never be considered self-defense. After the case was closed, Candy and her husband, in order to avoid more trouble, said goodbye to her former lover Allan and moved to another city to start a new life. Allan eventually remarried and started a new life. This story is based on true events. If you liked it, I'll see you in the next one.